stormy night. My name is Louisa Miller. This is Brad Topol. We are both from the Chicago Department of Transportation. We're in the Complete Streets group. So our group looks at two things mainly. One, we're responsible for safety. Can you hear me okay? Louder. We are responsible for safety. Okay.
I'm in the red danger territory.
Okay, how's this? Well, it's really loud in my own ear. So we're responsible for safety improvements. We also look at sort of multimodal transportation, so making streets safe for pedestrians, people driving, people biking, all the different ways that people get around. So as Kat said, there were sort of two intersections that we've heard a lot of feedback about, and these are very preliminary ideas that we've had. I think the general themes of them, we've talked to a lot of you all, and I'm sorry that these are not even a lot larger, but I hope you're able to reference the sheets that you have. But at the two intersections, the first intersection at Berwyn and Bowmanville, of course Bowmanville is coming in at a diagonal, which makes it sort of a complex intersection. There's a lot happening there too, with Berwyn being two-way in one direction, one-way in the other direction, a bike lane occurring there, and Western being not that far to the west. So there's a lot of opportunities that we see to better organize that intersection, make everyone much more visible, shorten crossings for people that are walking in that area. And I'll let Brad, who is the engineering lead for our team, get into more of the specifics there. But those are sort of the high-level issues that we see there that we want to try and address. And then further northeast on a really wide intersection coming up to where the diagonal street comes through. Again, we want to provide better visibility for everybody there, for people driving, for people potentially walking in that area, slow people down, make sure everyone can see each other. I already heard some really good feedback from the people that came and talked to me earlier, and that's what this meeting is about. As Kat said, none of this is set in stone right now. We really want to know, are we addressing the issues that you all think are out there? Have we missed something? Is this somewhere where you would want to be putting funds for infrastructure in your neighborhood? So I think with that, I'll turn it over to Brad to talk through what we plan to do.
Yeah, just before you discuss, do you have like a report on statistics, like number of accidents or anything like that?
That's typical data that we collect. I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% well versed on this. I live in the neighborhood, so that's why I'm here. But we deal with these types of treatments all the time. A lot of these things we call them like teeing up our intersections, right? So there's crashes, but there's also crash risk. So anything where we're seeing high speeds or people making turns at a high speed, or we're hearing things about non-compliance with stop signs, anything we can do to slow people down, to help them communicate with each other, make each other more visible, exactly the same things that Lisa was talking about. Those are a benefit. It reduces the risk factors associated with that area, so that it reduces the potential for any future crashes or conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians or people walking and trying to navigate the neighborhood. So the goal of this project is just to tee up some of our intersections, make it a little more easier to navigate, slow people down so that they're not, so they're adhering to some of the stop signs because of that angle on Bowmanville, right? It's easy to take that Bowmanville to Berwyn kind of turn there. And so this is kind of one of our standard toolbox treatments we use. Again, slows people down so people walking and people driving can kind of all see each other and navigate the space slowly and safely is the goal of these types of projects. That's pretty much my spiel. You teed it up for me. Thank you so much. We don't necessarily.
Could you just walk people through the designs?
Of course, of course. So we can start with page 1. So this is what we have today. It's our existing condition. We kind of have, you can see we have some of these curb extensions, what we call like detached bump outs. Those are those things that are vegetated today. Those were installed a number of years ago, specifically to kind of improve safety, slow people down, kind of try to organize the intersection a little bit better, especially the one on the bottom right, and also try to communicate that it's Berwyn's a one-way street, right? So that was kind of like maybe iteration 1 years ago when those got put in. It's great. We put in some plantings, beautify the neighborhood. That's a plus. But right now we're continuing to hear that people coming down Bowmanville are maybe disobeying that stop sign or traveling at high speed. So now we're looking for the next iteration of these improvements. I will say that right at this point in time, as the board has said, right, we're looking for your feedback, and so this is just the next level where they brought these concerns to us, we've brought up these concepts, and now we're looking for this feedback. So nothing is set in stone, nothing is funded yet. We're just looking to hear all from you all. If we flip our page to the one with the green and the red all over it, what we're seeing here is these would be the green is potential vegetation, the gray is like sidewalk replacements or where the sidewalks will be, and you can kind of see the red are all our pavement markings here. So the goal is, what we've heard is that also, I was mentioning westbound drivers kind of taking that shallow turn at speed and maybe just letting stop sign. We've also heard similar things from eastbound drivers too, that they're kind of taking that turn at an angle and maybe not slowing down either. So the whole point here is to have everyone approach kind of at 90 degrees to the intersection, kind of pull in some of those curves, make it a smaller intersection so that people can slow down and see each other and navigate that space and maybe come to more of a full stop than they are today. Also just for pedestrian safety, right? We know we have the western bus stops right there, and just people navigating the neighborhood, trying to get around. It helps with pedestrian visibility. I'll take your a few questions a second. I'm going to run through the whole presentation really quickly, and then I'll take a few questions so we can get through all the information first. But thank you so much. We value your feedback. So at that point, yeah, pavement markings, some new curb and gutter, and potentially some new vegetation areas for maybe some low-level plantings, right? Visibility is an issue out here, so we want to make sure that any plantings aren't super tall. But it's so great to have the Bowmanville mark here. And then if we flip over to the Balmoral, this is a similar treatment here where what we've heard is high speeds turning onto Balmoral. I had some interesting conversations over there by the other poster board over there, and people kind of talking about the layout of the neighborhood and how the streets all interact with each other. And right, this is an old neighborhood, right? This was built before cars were ever around, before stop signs existed. And that, and because of that fact, right, all of the streets don't perfectly line up, and so we have to kind of navigate that and kind of try to do, make improvements with what we have in front of us. And so the goal here is to kind of reduce that turning, make people have more of a 90-degree turn onto Balmoral, so it slows them down. Yes, we understand that there is no sidewalk there today and there is no pedestrian crossing, but we know that there is, one of the property owners has added some of that flagstone rock there to kind of, because that's the natural, we call it goat paths, right? That's a natural pedestrian desire line route there. So we know that people are crossing there today, and so if we can slow down those turns, then those people can be pedestrians crossing the street and vehicles making that turn, they can all kind of navigate each other, be more visible, have more time to react if people driving are turning at a slower speed. It also brings that stop bar up that's on Balmoral closer into the intersection, so you can kind of see. We understand, I've heard a lot about the Levitt stop sign is further back, and it's kind of, can be confusing because you have two intersections within, 70 feet of each other, and that's problematic in itself. We can't resolve that issue, today with this treatment, but what we can do is improve upon it and make everyone a little more visible, make people be able to see each other, and so they can kind of communicate and make eye contact and kind of navigate the space together.
Great.
Questions?
I live on Levitt, right by where we come up. And my concern is that this actually looks harder for me to pull up, for anybody to pull up north on Levitt and see what's on Berwyn coming out.
Okay, so the comment was,
Balmoral.
yeah, they live on Levitt, and that the concern is that it'll be harder to see vehicles on Balmoral that are pulling out to Bowmanville. Is that correct?
It looks like it here, and I know this is always a weird intersection. I think actually for the most part, people get that it's a four-way stop, but even putting four-way stop on the stop signs would be super helpful, right?
Okay.
I mean, because people fly down Balmoral, they stop way far up, and then they don't stop. And then if I'm coming south on Bowmanville to turn onto Levitt, those people that have stopped at Levitt going the other way, they don't know what to do with me.
Yeah. So they're continuing to reiterate that, right? Because all the stop signs are so far apart from each other. Because really, you're taking two distinct intersections and using a four-way stop as a single treatment for like what could be 2 4-way stops or 2 3-way stops, I guess, right? And again, it's just kind of the nature of like, this is just a more complex place because the streets don't align perfectly. So, yeah, concerns around that. I don't disagree with you, right? It's a problem. But what we can do is just kind of like, if this can slow people down a little bit more and help them kind of navigate each other and see each other, that's a benefit.
Or if we could cul-de-sac Levitt right there, that'd be fine.
Everyone, the cul-de-sacs are so popular until we try to do them. But to your point, especially because everybody here lives here, those suggestions about like signage, all that, we want those included in the form because we want to take all that information. This is like first draft stuff. We want to continue to make tweaks based on what we're hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
The idea too is that this stop bar that's so far back will come further up close to Bowmanville. So people will actually be up here when they're stopping, whereas right now they might be rolling through the stop sign and they're so far back that when you're at Levitt, the idea is that you'd have a better sight line to cars that are actually about to enter the intersection.
It's somewhat about the sight line, but it's also about who does what. Because, it's like, let the person on the right go or who pulls up to the stop and
Yeah. It's like human
all of
behavior
this
and how it's going to play
all
out.
of that is wishy-washy
For
there.
sure.
Yeah.
But people are usually respectful.
You could, it's,
Repeat the question.
oh, sorry. The question was, I had mentioned like we could do all-way stops at both intersections, and the question was, why not, or can you? You can, and that could be something that we, again, we're just looking for feedback, and that is something that we could potentially do. We could have 2 stop signs on Bowmanville there, one at Balmoral and one at Levitt. And that could help maybe navigate the space a little bit. I think that adding, the proposal here is to add what we call a paint post bump out, where it's just striping, and then kind of like you see the little white posts that come out of the ground. If we were to forever, put this in as an interim and then come back later and maybe formalize it with concrete and grass and sod or whatever, that could be another great opportunity. Because then the stop signs are a little farther apart on Bowmanville, at least heading north eastbound, and so then there's like a little more delineation between that. These bump outs will help kind of maybe delineate those intersections into a tighter space versus these broad open spaces. So it's definitely something we could consider in the future, and it might not be a bad idea. Yeah, go right ahead.
So this is part of that Bowmanville, Berwyn intersection. We live right around there, walking our dog up on Oakley, which is just 1 block to the east. People take that stop sign going westbound on Berwyn through Oakley to that little narrow part of Berwyn where it's that sign part. They don't take it as a stop sign, but like almost like an acceleration. A lot of traffic, you feel like you're gonna get run over, and it's like they see the eye on the prize to Western Avenue. What's the strategy for getting people to stop and stop sign?
Yeah. Okay, so the concern is that at Oakley and Berwyn, that people are traveling westbound through the neighborhood on Berwyn and to get to Western, and that they're traveling fast through the really narrow, tight block to get to Western, and what can be done about that?
Don't let them see the stop. Don't let them see the stoplight, because when it's green, that's when they go fast, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. That if you can see the stoplight, that there may be incentive to speed up to try to catch that. So, how do we slow people down? I mean, it can be challenging sometimes. We like in terms of our toolkit, we have a lot of the elements out there. We have speed humps, we have bump outs, we have stop signs. Anything to narrow that down and make it feel tight is kind of part of our toolbox. So, and I've been hearing this from others too as well when I was over there. So, there are potentially other things we can look at and try and to continue to narrow up the space. But I think it's just something that we'll have to, I don't have like a phenomenal answer for you at this moment. Because it's tough when you have like everything is communicating to you on that street that you should drive slow. It's a neighborhood place. There's a lot of vegetation, there's a lot of trees, it feels narrow, you have speed humps in place. But there are other treatments. I mean, we could look at doing additional raised crosswalks at the Bowmanville-Berwyn intersection. there are other ways we can continue to look at narrowing the street or doing other things. I'm not saying that we're proposing at this time, but there are still continue at Oakley. We could potentially look at other things. So,
Dummy camera.
huh? The camera?
Dummy camera.
Dummy camera. Yeah. Do you have a house out there? You go ahead. Yeah.
With a flash.
I'm gonna take, there was someone with a question in the back, and then I'll take you there next, okay? There was someone who had their hand raised in the back.
Yeah, gentlemen.
Yes. Yes, I will continue to repeat the questions, sure. And if you can't, listen, if you can't hear me and you don't understand the question, just yell out to repeat it, please, because I get involved in my answer and I forget about that, so. Sorry, go ahead, please, yes. Yeah, the question was that this person has seen stop signs with flashing lights around them, and are they any more effective than regular stop signs without flashing lights? We looked into those. Well, nationally, they've been they're part of like national discussions around what we call like traffic devices, which are stop signs and stoplights. There have been a few studies nationally done on them. There isn't necessarily anything that says they were more effective or less effective. And then also it's, just to be completely honest, like using LED, you have to use like LED and solar panels with those, and those work sometimes, but they can also be problematic, so, we haven't seen any, I can tell you that if there have been any studies out there showing that they were more effective, I feel like I would know it, because I read a lot of research papers, and we have a lot of national forums with other cities, and we talk a lot with other cities about safety treatments, and that's just something that people have tried and it hasn't shown a lot of benefit. I think a big benefit is just having a stop sign. Even if people aren't fully compliant, it's making people slow down somewhat and at least like look around. I understand that there are plenty of people that sometimes don't, but if you don't have a stop condition, people just fly through. So. Yes, you back there, and then I'll take you.
My question, I like the design changes that you're making around the Bowmanville urban and western interchange. My question though is, how are you addressing the major issue where people are doing illegal turns through Southern Augusta or the funeral home, or in the worst case where they're cutting through the city facility, shooting out of that alley, doing blind turns at a fast speed? What about the proposal would address or help to ameliorate, what is otherwise challenging situation that has a very dangerous behavior?
Yeah. So the concern is what they're saying. The concern is that people cut through the funeral home and the restaurant, and that there's some other alley cut through there, and that there's other ways to get around this when traffic is backed up. This is great. This is the feedback we want. We had, if you can see on our plans, you can see that we are accommodating. We're moving the driveway at the funeral home. Again, because we're still like, this is an iterative approach, and we're still getting feedback. We just heard from the ward like a few days ago about that, in some of their conversations with the funeral home, that the funeral home is like upset about cut through traffic as well. So this design is still in flux, and so what we could do is we could remove that driveway from the funeral home, as long as they can still navigate, the hearse around to the south entrance. Or if it works for them, we'll work with them on this too. If that's what, if they want to remove the driveway and that solves like that concern, great. The restaurant, this is the first time I'm hearing the cut through on the restaurant, so that's something that we'll have to go back and look at. There are tools we can use. So if one of the concerns is people going south on West End, again, I have not looked at this, so I'm just kind of like spitballing here. But like there are ways to harden the center line on Western, where you can put in some concrete there that prevents people going southbound and turning left if that's the problem movement into the restaurant there. But again, we wouldn't do anything without speaking with those businesses and working with the board in conjunction. But there are some options to dissuade by implementing concrete or additional signage or other things like that. But yeah, we understand that a cut through can be a problem. So I think we had a question. And then
yeah, so just for me, any conversation about traffic safety on Bowmanville Avenue has to involve national crosswalks, and there aren't any.
My question of what, sorry.
Crosswalks.
Crosswalks, got it.
This was my question.
Oh, got it.
So pedestrian crosswalks. So, I run volunteer days at Bowmanville Community Garden, and it's very difficult to keep the volunteers safe because there's no safe place across Bowmanville Avenue. And I understand this ADA thing because there's no concrete on the side, but what about Bell? There's a sidewalk there, you could do a crosswalk with Bell, and that could work very well with the other improvements. It could work very well with that. So I think crosswalk has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, the constituent's concern was around crossing pedestrian crosswalks across Bowmanville and how it's problematic that I think the only crosswalk is at Oakley and then down at Berwyn. And that what can we do to get those crosswalks there? And they mentioned, I'll go into a little bit of some of the history there, but yeah, from the city standpoint, we won't build a crosswalk across the street unless there's a what we call pedestrian access route, or basically what is a wheelchair and blind accessible route on the other side of the street. So we don't want someone who is blind or mobility impaired to have essentially a crossing to nowhere from their perspective. He mentioned Bell. This person mentioned that Bell could be an option, and that's something that the ward has brought up that we've looked at, and that is something that's feasible. We could build ADA ramps and then put another crossing at Bell. If the sidewalk on the north side of Bowmanville ever kind of extended up to Levitt, which I think that kind of overlaps the community garden, so that would have to be a conversation. But if we can connect into the existing network where someone crosses the street, has an accessible route back down Bowmanville to Western or wherever, I think it's something that we can definitely consider, and we've been talking to the ward, at least at Bell, providing an additional crossing. So.
Related to that, on the north side of Bowmanville, that is full of people jogging all the time, and there's no sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's cemetery property. I don't know if that's why, but that's a safer place for them to be running than to try and cross Damon at Bowmanville.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why there's not a sidewalk on that side of the street.
So the comment was, there's no sidewalk on the north side of Bowmanville, and it's utilized by joggers and things like that. And why isn't there a sidewalk, and I guess I didn't say why isn't there a sidewalk? We'll start with that. I actually, in preparation for this meeting, dove into that. I pulled up some aerials from 1939 when they were running the first aerials ever taken of Chicago out there from planes. Just to see if there ever was a sidewalk out there. Maybe sometimes they break apart and they just get put away. But I think it's just the history that the cemetery has been there and it was just never built. It's not saying that we can't build one there in the future. I think between the curb and the wall is city property, public right of way, right? So it's public property. There's no reason why we couldn't, but obviously there's the community garden there, so there have to be.
There's not enough clearance.
Oh, there isn't.
currently.
Okay, I apologize. I
The
haven't.
cemetery would have to relocate their walls and give up part of their
Right,
property
okay.
for there to be appropriate clearance to do a full sidewalk that meets ADA compliance there.
That is-
Did you guys hear that in the back?
Oh, I
Okay.
can repeat.
Got it.
So, my apologies. I'm not 100% well versed on the history of what's been looked at, but the ward has obviously worked on that and researched this. So the comment was made that between the wall and the curb, there is not enough space to put in an ADA compliant sidewalk on the north side of Bowmanville all the way up to Damon. So you would have to take other drastic measures, like moving the curb or doing other things. So. Or having the cemetery relocate their wall or crazy bigger things. So. All right.
This is about the
I'm going to take you, and then we got one in the back. I see you back there. So.
So I don't know how to say this without it sounding ignorant or rude, but because of the ADA compliant restriction, you're forcing 98% of the population to cross where there are no crosswalks. I mean, there's a vast amount of people that use that nature trail along both the cemetery wall and our green space, and they could walk around the cemetery or walk north or east or west. People are walking across Bowmanville with no crosswalks at Levitt and at Delmora. And you're saying you can't put a crosswalk in because of the chance that maybe there might be someone who could accidentally cross who is able to get to safety on the other side. It just seems like, but we're also allowing all the dog walkers, the people with children going to the park. Tons of people every day cross those two streets to get to the other side of Bowmanville. But we can't put a crosswalk in for them. Is there no exception possible?
So the comment was,
I know it's long.
no, I can sure. It was reiterating the concern about people crossing across Bowmanville to the garden space, and that if we don't have an accessible route on that side, is there no other option? There's no exception to the rule to install something there, because a lot of people do cross there, and a lot of people do access that garden space. I'm sure it's something we can take back and continue to look at. This is just kind of our generic CDOT policy around EDA and around accessibility. But we understand, we hear you on safety, and we've been hearing from other people that Bowmanville is faster and that there's concerns around speeds and safety crossing. So I think it's something that we can continue to look at, but I'm just kind of stating like what we do today and what our policy is today around EDA. I think there was, one question in the back, and then I see you with a hat. We'll gotcha. So. I kind of heard. Are you saying turns are happening when the turn arrow isn't on, or?
There's a sign that says no left turn. People don't care the sign's there. They're doing it no matter what. So they're making a left turn onto Berlin.
Got it. It says it's left turn restricted at certain times of the day.
There used to be a couple there every time.
Sir, you're free to come up here. That's helpful.
They made so much money off of that. Yeah. So So concerns around turning left from southbound Western onto Irwin. Right. Correct. Okay. Great. Thank you. Red light.
And are there options to change the signal and add turn arrows? So there's a red turn arrow too that stops that. That's definitely something that could be possible. That could be looked at by our signal team, and is something that is, again, it's like standard toolkit stuff we do. Signal stuff is expensive, so we don't get to do it as much as we like. But it's, there's a lot of permissive lefts in Chicago, which is where you have a green arrow, but then there's no stopping you there, so you can always cross like oncoming traffic, and that's a safety concern as well. So, but it's definitely a possible solution. So thank you for your input.
Paid camera.
We have this
Red light
gentleman
camera.
hat there.
They
Yeah.
make a lot of money.
Real camera.
There was ADA issues for compliance with the further east section of Bowmanville having a sidewalk. Is there anything that's stopping you from putting the sidewalk against that wall where it's the grassy area and the houses, and completing the sidewalk up to the nearest intersection so that you could create a legal crosswalk at that place? And have a dead end.
Yeah.
Safety concern for someone with disabilities.
So the question was, can we at least like get a sidewalk on the north side that at least goes far enough to get you to Levitt or something like that? I think that's something we could look at again with the issues with the cemetery. We'll have to dig into that again, but it's something we can continue to look at. So, and with that, we're going to hand it off. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll appreciate the feedback.
Thank you, everyone. We really, really appreciate the questions that you asked. Again, we really want you to fill out the form that is linked on the handouts we left. I can also give you the link afterwards. We really want to be respectful to the rest of BCO's time, because this is their general membership meeting, and we've just kind of hopped on to their meeting. So the alderperson and I are still going to be here around to help answer any questions. The CDOT team is going to head out. We're very gracious for their time tonight. But please fill out that form. You can add questions too if you haven't made up your mind, and that will be the best way for us to make sure we can follow up with you via email or phone call with an answer to those questions. You and I can connect. Yeah.
I just want to know, what is the timeline for moving forward?
Oh, next week.
So when are you thinking that there may be some conclusion after the input where some implementation
Yeah.
might happen?
Absolutely. We're going to have this feedback form open for a few weeks to get your feedback. Please share with your friends, your family members who are in the neighborhood too, who might have thoughts on this. I've been recording this. It's going to be on our website as well. And send us your questions. We might try to work on putting together an FAQ together on the website as well. We have to figure out whether or not these plans are moving forward. And then our office would have to make sure we have enough infrastructure money. We get $1.5 million in menu infrastructure every year to spend. Many of you voted in our people's budget, which helps us determine how to spend that money. So I don't think this would be happening this summer or this fall necessarily. This is likely a 2026 project. So there's still a lot of time. It sounds like you all might have some great suggestions for us to add some updates to these designs as well. If you generally like them, but you want some additional things added to them to address some of those concerns that were brought up today. So please send us the feedback. The alderperson and I are going to be here, but I do want to introduce Congressman Quigley, who's here, to tell you about all that he's doing. So I will bring him up.
Get away from me.
Hello, my friends. I'm reminded of the scene in the movie Naked Gun. Nothing to see here, nothing to see on the